everyone after. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And hopefully, especially if this is your first time at a virtual career fair or any kind of career fair, this will help make things a little bit more clear, and we can answer any questions that you might have about the event. Make sure you're feeling confident. I know with virtual career fairs, there's a lot more preparation in terms of setup that goes into these. So in our in-person fairs, really all you do is show up with your banner. We've got a table ready. It's a pretty straightforward event in terms of logistics, whereas with the virtual fairs, you're having to input a lot of information into the system and log into something for the first time, and it can be a little bit intimidating for employers. And I know employers in the last year and a half have had to learn quite a few different systems. There's so many different platforms out there for virtual fairs, and I hear from employers frequently that they've learned 5, 6, 7 different platforms in the last year, and that's a lot of information, especially when it's not part of your regular scheduled recruitment activities or other duties. Yeah, so what we're going to talk about today, just general welcome. I'm going to introduce my role, and Trina is going to talk a little bit about what they do, and we're going to summarize the format for this event and talk about who's attending, which students and alumni are coming to this fair. In case that hasn't been clear, you can ask any questions about who's attending as well, and make sure that that aligns with your recruitment needs. And we'll go over the employer dashboard that was sent out. So this week, the first set of instructions for setting up your virtual booth went out. And there's a link to an employer dashboard that we created that just has some handouts and videos and steps to setting up your booth and the day of. So there's kind of a little hub of information there, and we'll go through that to make sure you understand what is contained there. And then we'll discuss some tips for connecting one-on-one and with the info sessions, especially for those employers who are new to those things. Want to make sure you're feeling confident about how you're using your time, and I can share with you what I've seen works really well over the years. Any questions before we start?
No, sounds good.
Okay, we'll just jump right into it. Trina, is it okay if I hand it off to you to talk about the employer dashboard after we talk about the format? And I'll share my screen with the employer dashboard as well.
That sounds great. That sounds perfect.
Okay, so just to recap the event, this event will have both one-on-one chats, so you can have representatives meeting one-on-one with attendees, and we'll talk about how that works in a moment. And then we also are doing information sessions. So I've got a schedule of information sessions, and I will share that after this session. I'll be sending out that schedule to all the attending employers, so you can see what time your info session is at. And we've just asked that you create the 2 links for your info sessions, and we will share those with students. The idea being, if you've created your own meeting link, then you're able to, first of all, control your presentations and administer things on your end, but you can also download your participant list and see who's attended a lot more easily than if we have to share that information with you from our end. So the idea with that is oftentimes there's really long lineups at the Tech Career Fair. We find that computing students at BCIT are very eager. It's one of the more well-attended events that we hold. And last year, there were employers who were not able to get through all of the attendees who lined up to talk to them one-on-one. There's only so many representatives, and if you're spending 5 or 10 minutes talking to someone, logistically, you can only talk to so many people in your lineup. And then the other aspect of offering info sessions is that some students and alumni are not necessarily ready or wanting to have a one-on-one conversation. They're sometimes just in a stage where they're exploring options, or they're wanting to learn a little bit more generally about companies and opportunities. And an info session is a nice way to give a sort of a broad range of information to an audience instead of having to repeat some of that basic information about your company over and over again in those one-on-one conversations. So hopefully we're kind of giving just different options for attendees to access information about the company and connect with your company. So that was the impetus for having those two options. So in terms of attendees, this event is mostly attended by computing students at BCIT. BCIT has over 30 programs in computing. BCIT is very unique, being a polytechnic institute, in that we're not mostly a degree granting institute. There's mostly certificates, diplomas, things like that. So a lot of people come to BCIT because they're continuing their education. They may already have a degree in something like computer science, and now they're taking a certificate in something like database administration. There are degrees in the computing program. Those are just not the main or the most attended largest programs at BCIT. So there's also going to be students from the School of Business who are in tech-related programs. So the School of Business at BCIT does have programs like business analytics, business information technology, and some media programs like new media and web development under their umbrella. So those students are still in sort of tech and IT related areas, and that's why you might see students from that area as well. Most of the students you'll see will be in programs like software development. The program at BCIT that is the largest program under computing that is dedicated to software development is the Computer Systems Technology Diploma. And there's about 250 students from that program. Each intake. And I'd be happy to share numbers about program areas if anyone's interested in that. Just let me know. I'm happy to send you those numbers. But then there's quite a few diplomas, Bachelor of Technology degrees, and certificates with disciplines in network and system administration, cybersecurity, forensics, like computing forensics. There's digital design, web and mobile development, and other types of design programs as well. There's data analytics, business intelligence, database administration, and there's quite a few more. So I don't want to tell you all 50 of the program areas that you might see students from, but these are kind of the main focus areas that you'll be seeing attendees from. The other thing is our services are available for alumni. So after a student graduates from BCIT, whether they have just completed a couple of part-time courses or they've completed an entire credential, they're still able to come to our events like this. They're also able to access services like career coaching. So you will likely see a good amount of students who have recently graduated or graduated in the last year or two, as well as students who are nearing graduation. So there's a graduation that happens in December, and there's also one that happens in spring. Those are the two main seasons for students completing programs. And then you may also see students who are quite early in their program and are just trying to learn a bit about the industry that they're trying to break into. So a little bit of information about who you can expect to be meeting with. Any questions on the target audience from anyone?
Oh. No, all good.
Okay, sounds good. So I will hand it over to Trina. Trina, let me know, do you want me to share my screen for the employer dashboard, or do you want to do that? Is that more?
I think when I'm toggling the mouse, people can see what I'm pointing at, and that'd be great. So I will share my screen. I've got it all set up. Perfect. So we have created, our colleague and a few of us have put this together, which is just basically a dashboard for you folks to help kind of navigate the fair, know how to set up your booth, know what your representatives can do on the day of, with some videos. We've provided both PDF documents with kind of step-by-step and virtual instructions or visual instructions, as well as some YouTube videos. So it all depends on how you best interact with platforms. But as Amy said, we know you've been learning on lots of different platforms, since we were hoping to make this as easy as possible. So there's two different roles within folks who are going to be logging in. We have our booth leads, which I believe most of you are. And what you would do is the booth leads are the ones that create the booth. So only one person from your from organization can create a booth. So we have this section here, the booth leads on the left-hand side, that allows you to kind of look at different ways that you can set this up. So there is the login link. So if you click on this, it brings you to how to log in. And then all of you should already be on Simplicity. If not, you just create a password for the very first time. And then you can log in and you'll automatically have access to the ability to set the booth. Then we've got the registration and booth setup instructions, which I'll show you in a second on what that looks like. And then as well, if you ever need to go back in, we do have it open. So at any point you can go back in, you can edit your booth, you can add in more job postings, you can add in more representatives. If links change, you can add in the links. So there's also a way to do that as well. And so that's setting up your booth. And then in here, we also have kind of day of. So again, how do you log in on the day of? Kind of some login instructions. It's a one-pager, just how to make sure that you can log in properly and get to your booth. And then of course, day of tips and tricks. Some of the key tips and tricks that I'd like to highlight, Microsoft Explorer and Edge do not work. Sorry, Internet Explorer and Microsoft Edge do not work. You will want to be using Google Chrome is the best for browser for interacting online. We highly encourage you to do that. Definitely you can get access to, on the day of, up to like an hour in advance. So definitely go in and test it out and make sure that you feel comfortable. And of course, I will be available to support. And then this will also be shared with your booth representatives. So feel free to, you can share the dashboard with them, or we will also be sharing it with them as well. And so these are the booth representatives. And again, there's a login link, knowing how to log in for the first time if they're new to Simplicity, as well as kind of some login instructions just to help them on the day of. And then of course the day of tips and tricks as well. We've got some videos here. One's how to register and set up your booth, and one's how to log in and chat with students on the day of. Highly recommend you watch the how to chat with students on the day of. It's a good kind of one to know how to navigate the platform. We've got some frequently asked questions that you can take a look through as you look through the dashboard. And of course, if you need to contact any of us, this is our wonderful careers team. We've got Ian here. And then if you do need any tech questions, so if there's any questions in regards to setting up your booth or logistics for the day of, please feel free to contact me at any time. I'm happy to support and help. I do want to make sure that you feel comfortable setting up your booths. So I'm going to just quickly pop over to the next screen. Can you see the new screen? Switch over. Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to sign in. And so what you're going to do is if you're brand new to this, you would just automatically just create a password and you'd be able to log in. But you're going to log into our main page. Once you get to this main page, you're just going to click on Events, Career Fairs, and only the ones that we've assigned, so it's only going to be this one that you're going to see, and you're just going to click on the plus sign up. And I know I'm going through this quickly. One, the recording will be provided to you, and two, we will be, it's in the day of our how to set up your booth instructions on that dashboard, so you'll be able to follow along on that as well. So you just come in, you just put in your information in regards to your company. We've got certain ones that are that you have to fill out, the other ones you don't have to. It's really up to you. And then once you've got that filled out, you go to the next page. So we've got contact, now your profile information. This is kind of the main page that you want to do. You would drop in a logo here, what industry you're looking for, a website link, and anything that you want to include about your job. So I realize I don't have an image. So let's see what I have on my computer here. I don't have any images. Do I have any images? No. All right. Sorry, folks. Let me just, and then so yeah, you throw your logo in, and then from there we'd be good to go. I don't have, of course I don't have an image. Hang on, I'm gonna get one in 2 seconds. I think that worked.
While Trina's looking for that, I'll just point out, this is when students log into the system and they're browsing people's booths. This is the information that they're going to see here. So they're going to see your company logo. They're going to see what industry you sort of identify as, and they're going to see your website, and then the overview section that Trina is going to point out, I would say is really important. You want to talk a little bit about what your company does, but that's also a really important place to talk about who you're looking to chat with at the career fair. So if you have any particular opportunities or areas that you'd like people to be aware of, that's a really great place to highlight that. So for example, if you've got summer opportunities and you want students to be aware of those, you can invite them to chat about, come chat with our representative about our summer opportunities, or we'd love to talk to students who are in the co-op program at BCIT about our co-op opportunities, or we're looking for these particular positions and we'd love to chat with you about that. So it's a good place to kind of let attendees know what you're wanting to talk about today, if you have a specific goal that you'd like people to be aware of.
That was great. Thanks, Amy, for jumping in. And our logo is my cat, so we'll just put the cat in there. But yeah, so we've got this, so you would add in your logo, and again, that you definitely use that overview to add things in. One thing to note, you cannot include links, unfortunately. If you wanted to do the entire URL in there, you could, but then people would have to copy and paste. It's one question we get every time. The one link you want to include would be that to the website. So it's your choice where you want to lead them onto your website. If you are looking for only one specific job posting, you could link there here, but we definitely encourage you to just link to your career page. And then that's always kind of really helpful. And then of course, if you add any job postings into our system, this is where you'll be able to find them. You can also add a new posting in and you can just walk through it completely. So it's really up to you to add in there.
So you have to, just to piggyback on that, you have to have already added your job to our job board in order to be able to link it there. That's right. Is that right, Trina?
You can also add in an individual one as well. It's really up to you, because if it's not already on our job board, you can also just add it in and then it gets added to the job board. So it's 2 ways to do that. So, but it's nice to have it on the job board already. It makes it easier because then you can do that separately. And then here's where you're going to add in your representatives. And so this is just how many representatives you're going to choose, and this allows how many ones you can fill out. So number of representatives can be anywhere. Again, we do see lineups, so we encourage definitely more than one. So multiple of you can be in chatting. I'm just going to add one today, but it's up to you how many you want to add in. If you are going to be at the booth yourself, you do have to add yourself in here, otherwise you won't have access to the booth. So even though you're the lead, still make sure you add yourself as this. So I want to be in my booth for the day of, so I've added in my information, my email address, and then this is where my meeting instructions are going to go. So this is going to be my Microsoft Teams or Zoom link. Then all you are going to want to do is highlight and then insert the link here. So once you've inserted that link, it will highlight blue, and then that's what students are going to see when you send them an invite to chat, and then students click on that, and that's how they get into your Microsoft Teams meeting or Zoom meeting. We encourage to stick with just Microsoft Teams or Zoom. We really encourage that. We have found that other softwares and other platforms don't work well, and students have these already downloaded and ready to go, and they know how to use them for the most part, versus some of the other platforms do take time for downloading, and then you're waiting 2 to 3 minutes while the student is downloading that software. So we do encourage you to use Teams or Zoom. And of course, you can do alternative instructions. Usually here, if for whatever reason the link's not working, we encourage you to, if you've got a phone number that students can call, to then have a phone conversation. That does work, and I know that has happened in previous fairs, where some folks just prefer to, provide the alternative instructions to encourage them, or it can be your email, but just another way to contact you if for some reason the link doesn't work.
So, Trina, this link, is it for the one-to-one chats or is it for the information sessions?
So this is for the one-to-one chats. So if you add in multiple representatives, you'll want to make sure everyone's got their own individual link. So I would create one for myself, and then if I'm adding in a second person, so I'm going to have Amy in my booth as well. And once I've got us both in here, I would also then add in a separate link for Amy. So what I would encourage for each of your representatives to do is to create a meeting during the time of the fair and send you that link, so you know who to assign what link to. And again, you want each of those links to be unique, so it is individually one-on-one chats. So both Amy and I would create our own Microsoft Teams meeting during the fair, and then we would include those links in there.
Sorry, follow-up question. So if these are for the one-on-one chats, how do you have, like typically Teams meetings are open, right? So anyone accessing that link, like how do you queue people? So you can have, yeah.
No, that's a really excellent question. In the fair itself, it's not until you invite the student to chat do they get the link. And then once that student gets the link to chat, they'll join the Microsoft Teams meeting. You'll have your conversation. They'll leave the Microsoft Teams meeting. You exit, both of you will exit on, so you need two screens. You'll need your Microsoft Teams meeting open, and you also need Simplicity open, where you'll have your booth. And in that booth, all of your colleagues will be able to see who's waiting in queue, and the next student in line you click on, and then you have that conversation with that student to have that chat with them, which works really, really well. And then once you're done with the chat, you'll both exit. You'll have a screen and an opportunity to write in notes about that student if you want to follow up with them. And then you'll exit, and then you'll go back to the queue where you'll invite the next student. So students don't have free access to these links. It's not until you invite them.
Gotcha. But I mean, once the students joined, they have the link, right? So they could theoretically rejoin.
They only have the link based on the window that they have access to. Once you end the call, they lose the access to that link. So they would.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And then for the notes, are those notes private to our team, or are they shared with BCIT?
It's private to your team. We would have access behind the scenes, just because as access to the logistics, we'd be able to pull the notes, but it's only among your team that sees them and the few of us who are administrators behind the scenes. But students don't see them; they don't see those responses or anything.
Understood. Thank you.
And we don't look at them.
At the end of the fair, there is the system will download your meeting notes as well as the attendee data and email it to, I think, the booth lead and all the representatives, Trina?
Correct, yeah.
So you just automatically get a package of information with your one-on-one chat attendees, including their profile information and resumes, if there was a resume attached to their profile, and any notes for each representative that were created, if there were any notes created.
Sorry, I just have one more question. Our company typically use WebEx as opposed to Teams or Zoom. I mean, has anyone ever used WebEx before for these type of events?
Yeah, and unfortunately, WebEx is a tough one. Students have to, there's certain things that they have to download, and we've had complaints from students using WebEx, so we actually highly discourage WebEx. On the virtual employer dashboard, we do have a couple of frequently asked questions. How do you create meetings and how do you create links for Zoom? This way does teach you how to just download Microsoft Teams and be able to use the free version to be able to create this for the day of the fair.
Yeah, okay, understood. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Any more questions about this page? So this is kind of the main one where you're going to spend the most time on. I think both the profile information and representatives is where you're going to make put your most information down. And then again, it's that full name, email address, making sure you've got the links for everybody, and you add in all the representatives. If you don't know all the representatives when you're doing the booth the first time, again, you can come back and add in more representatives, or if a representative calls in sick, you can even come in during the fair and remove someone and then add someone else in as well.
Trina, sorry if you were about to get to this, but one other thing about the one-on-one chats that I think is important is that You always want to have at least one of your representatives online. So when you are available, when you go in the day of the event as a representative, you will toggle your yourself to available, and that shows attendees of the fair that the booth is basically active. So if there are no representatives available, your booth kind of looks inactive and students won't be able to queue up. And so that's why it's just nice. You want to have at least one person available at any given time during the fair. If a person needs to take a break, or if they're just doing an hour or 2 hours of being available, that's totally fine. They can toggle themselves to be unavailable at any point, and it doesn't mean that it doesn't affect the queue at all. It'll just be that whatever other representative is online would be the person who's going to be able to invite the next person, the next attendee in the queue. Hopefully that makes sense.
And I will show you the day of information PDF as well, and then I'll show you kind of the step-by-step and some visuals on what that looks like. So that's great. And then we've got this page as well, which basically, it looks like it's having a bit of, but this page is basically going to let you know how long you want your chats to be. So basically what this does, whenever you put in how long you want a chat to be, it could be anywhere from, I think it's 5 to 15 minutes. I do encourage you to say no more than 5. It doesn't mean that your call is, like, once it gets past 5 minutes, it's going to drop. It's just a bit of a timer countdown for both you and the student that you can both see on Simplicity that helps guide the conversation. However, it also predicts how long the wait time is for your booth. And so if you do put 15 minutes, sometimes also the wait time, even if you only have 20 students in the booth, is 20 times 15. And then that can be quite excessive and students may not join your booth. So I'd highly encourage to keep around 5 minutes. Do try to keep chats around that time if you've got longer queues, but the nice thing is you're able to see how many students are in the queue. And so you can have a kind of you can gauge how quickly you want to, or how long you want to talk with each student, depending on the conversation. So this again is just putting in how long you'd like your chat. So again, anywhere between 5 and 15 minutes. Let me click on next. And the last one is, this is actually, folks do not have to worry about this. This is where your information sessions are going, but you've already sent that stuff to Amy or are going to. We'll be inputting it because we want to make every single booth look very similar in regards to the information of how to link to your specific information sessions and the timing. So we'll take care of this. So don't worry about this. You can just leave this blank. You review and confirm. And then you get to your last page. You see your lovely logo there. You see all the overviews, the websites you've added. Just take a look. And then, of course, you can just hit confirm. And then you're there. And then you're done. If you ever need to come back in here to edit, you would just career fair, hit the registered and registration, and then you can zoom down here, click modify, and then you'll be able to come through and you just go page by page and modify whatever you need. But again, we've got those instructions in the dashboard. And the other thing, so that's setting up your booth, that's getting your booth set up. Again, all of that information is here, or you can watch this video. On the day of, the way that you want to kind of get set up and get ready to go, on the day of, you'll click on this representative login instructions, and this provides you kind of the step-by-step on what's happening. So again, if you're a new first-time booth rep, you would just go with forgot my password. All representatives, as soon as you add them into your booth, all representatives automatically get added in their emails as a booth representative. So they now have access to be able to log in. So even if they've never created an account, they don't have to. All they have to do is click forgot password, enter the email. They'll be able to add in a new password, and away they go. So that's how they log in on the day of, which I think is really important. And then day of tips and tricks. So again, I mentioned a couple of these things on the day of the fair. You can get into the fair 60 minutes in advance. Again, best to use Google Chrome. Once you get in, kind of vary it the same way that you set up the booth, but instead all reps, you would go to events on the left-hand side, click on career fairs, and then you'll see this registered, and you'll click on the blue button called view chats. Once you've viewed chats, you're brought to this main page where you'll be able to see there's a video chat instructions that you can click on that'll help provide some information. And you just want to make sure you're getting all set up. So you want to make sure that that your information about who you are and everything is correct, and all of that can be edited on this right-hand side. There's a small little image here that might be really hard to see. Let me just zoom in. Perfect. So here, if you want to just take a look, so again, there's a video chat instructions that you can click on to learn a little bit more, but again, this is how you can have everything set up and ready to go. You're in your booth. So this is accessible an hour in advance. Once you log in, there's a few other things here to kind of, you'll check your link to make sure that it's your individual link. You can make sure your photo's on there. You can add in your photo if you'd like, and make sure everything's information. But all of this, you'll see yourself, your chat profile on the right-hand side. And when you're ready to chat, once the fair becomes live at the 2:30 p.m., you would click online. And that's where you can just click this drop-down button and click that and select online, and you'll be able to see right away the students in the queue. As you can see, right here, there's 2 results, but you want to click on Jill because Jill's the first one in the queue. So whoever clicks on Jill would just start chat on Jill, would click Start Chat. You'd be brought into a separate page where on Simplicity, where you would then see both the Microsoft Teams link. Jill would join, you would join, or you can already be joined on another page, and then you can have a conversation. If you do need to step away for whatever reason, you are welcome to then click on Busy, and then students can see that you are not online currently. But again, hopefully there's multiple of you. On the student side of things, they would see all the different representatives in your booth and would see who's online and who's offline. So that's kind of nice as well. So again, yeah, you click on the Start Chat. This is kind of the instruction page that would pop up. So Jill would see this page. You've got the 5-minute countdown, and then you've got the video chat instructions, which is like join your Microsoft Teams meeting. Click on that. Jill's brought into the meeting to chat with you. You're brought into the meeting to chat with Jill, and away you go. Again, we mentioned a few things. You can have that conversation with different students. Try and keep it within the 5 minutes. But again, if this clock countdown does go past 5, it doesn't kick you out. It just kind of gives you that understanding that, it's been more than 5 minutes, and just be aware of that time management. When you're done chatting with them in Teams meeting, you can go back to Simplicity page, hit End Chat, and then that'll end the chat for them. They'll be brought up to a page where then you can fill out those notes like I mentioned. And then again, all that information is there. Another kind of view of the page, you'll see there'll be a few of you in here, other representatives that are attending, who's available, and then you'll be able to see who's chatting with who. And then if someone of your other colleagues is chatting, so Jenny's already chatting with Mary Ellen, then you would go down, and Zena here would be able to click on Start Chat and start that conversation with her. You cannot jump over people. You do have to go in the order that they appear, but it'll be kind of nice to see who's chatting with who and how many students are in queue. Of course, when you're to the upcoming and you're looking at your chats, you will also be able to see how many students are in the queue at that time, so that'll help with that time management. And that's pretty much the conversation that you'll be having. Again, if your booth representatives are the ones that are also leaving the booth to run the information session, again, they can just put that they're busy, run the information session, and then of course come back and go back online to talk in the chat. But again, we do encourage that you have someone always doing the one-on-ones as well as the info sessions happening at that time. Is that correct, Amy? Is that how that's going to work? Awesome. Okay, perfect. So again, we've tried, as you can see, there's a few things that are a bit, point A to point B. But if you do have any questions, we are here. If you have, we definitely recommend you check out the dashboard. It does have all the information there. Watch the videos. It's going to be fairly similar to what I just walked you through. And we're happy to answer any questions that you may have, because we do want to make sure that you folks feel like you've got the most support for this day of in this booth. So, yeah. Is there any other questions before I hand it back to Amy?
I've just got one question. Sorry. So I'm put down as the booth lead, and I'm actually based in the UK, so it's going to be quite late for me. Does the booth lead have to be online at all times, or am I okay to kind of set up the links, do all the administration behind it, and then the representatives just log in and do the information sessions and the one-to-one chats?
Yeah, you don't have to be there. The booth lead does not have to be present. The booth lead can very much, you can set it up like even the day before, and as long as all the links are set and ready to go, the representatives will be receiving an email from myself the day before with my contact details, with a link to the dashboard, with a reminder of saying like, thank you for being here. Then the representatives, if they have any troubleshooting, they can come to me. And as the tech support, if there is anything I need to change on your booth to make one little thing work, I do have access to be able to do that. I don't touch it otherwise, but if there's more of a tech support or logistics thing that I need to update or tweak, then I work on that.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, no problem. Any other questions? All right. Amy, I will hand it. Oh.
Yeah, I was thinking, is it possible to make a difference between really technical in-depth questions and maybe HR questions?
Do you mean are you talking about for students, or do you mean for if you have questions for us?
No, for the students. So if you have a big queue and they have only technical in-depth questions, and maybe the recruiter doesn't have the answer to give the technical questions.
Yes, and that's one of the challenges of this format is when you're at a booth in person, if that's a format you've experienced before, you can just say, oh, my colleague over here to my left can answer that question.
Yeah.
Trina, I think we had a couple of workarounds for that we've suggested before.
Yeah, it's for this one, with this platform, you cannot pass them on to a colleague. It is one of those challenging where you could, depends, you could have a separate conversation happening on a Teams chat with all the representatives in the booth. And if you get a student that you cannot answer their questions, you can recommend for that student to leave and then join that booth again. Students can join booths as many times as they want. And then you just say, hey, Harb, so-and-so Johnny is going to be coming back in. Can you make sure that you are the one that waits for him to get to the queue, and then you will talk to them. And so just kind of it's a really weird workaround. Otherwise, we don't really have a way for folks to select specific people because it is the next person. So I do apologize. I know some folks also have the different, depending on their program, you want to talk to specific students. And that's also challenging too, where it is, some employers have chosen to wait. Like, oh, we see this person's in this program, we know that they have to talk to so-and-so, so you just wait for that person to be available, and then they click on the chat, and then it kind of then follows suit with folks just following up with the students behind that in the queue. It's not the easiest, and I'm sorry, but
no worries.
That's the way we've been doing it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks, Trina. If you just stop sharing your screen, I'll bring up the PowerPoint again. Thanks so much. And yeah, and we will be available, of course, right up until the event and during the event. If you're having a question or challenge, we're there to chat with you. Our phone numbers and email is provided. So we are happy to help you through any of those challenges that are happening at the time of. Let me just grab my presentation here. So so we've gone through the booth setup. So tips for a successful event. I know I've had quite a few questions about how to conduct an info session, and I know not every employer and representative has hosted an info session before. They're 30 minutes, so they're quite short. And every employer gets 2 time slots, and one toward the beginning of the event and one toward the end of the event. You can have one person host the info session. You can have multiple representatives in that event. It's whatever you have capacity for or think is needed. So, information about your company is always a good place to start, talking about your organization's product or service or purpose, any information you want to share about your location and size. We're a startup, or we are the parent company of these other subsidiaries. Information like that's a nice place to start. Students and alumni are also very interested in things like company culture. What are the values of the company? What is the, working atmosphere like? And then, of course, students are very interested in opportunities. So they want to know how they can connect with your company in terms of working there. So do you have current opportunities that are a good fit for current students or new grads? Do you have do you host summer students or co-ops or internships? Those are all definitely topics students are very interested in. And they're also interested in the hiring process. So do you have a technical interview? If you, so computing students are very, very eager to get insight into what the hiring process is like, because they do hear a lot about the different types of technical assessments and interviews that they might be going through, and they're very eager to kind of pull back the curtain and see, what they're in for. And what you look for when you're evaluating candidates. How does a good candidate stand out to you? What are some common mistakes you would recommend people avoid in the hiring process? And then attendees are often interested in growth and training. How does your company kind of onboard new hires? And of course, things like, are your employees working remotely? Are they in the office? Things like that. So those are sort of the general pieces of information that I find are most important to share in your info session. The other thing I suggest is asking attendees questions. So you might have a few attendees, you might have 50 attendees. It can kind of depend on how many people are in the fair at the time. So we do find there are sort of times when there's more attendees online than others, and there will be 5 info sessions running concurrently at a time. So every time you're hosting an info session, there's a couple of other companies hosting info sessions as well. And the idea is that if there's information that you want to gather, like what stage are they at with their career? Are they currently job seeking? Are they current students? What program are they in? If you want to ask them questions, you can invite them to unmute if it's a small group and share that information. You can ask attendees to put that information in the chat if you're interested in collecting that kind of information. And then leaving time for Q&A. So because it's 30 minutes, I recommend budgeting about 20 minutes for your presentation, and then also maybe 10 minutes for Q&A. Students do tend to have a lot of questions. One thing I'm not sure I touched on in that slide before was students are also really interested in what you do. So they really like hearing from industry, whether you're in a human resource capacity or in a technical team. They love hearing about your career path, how you got into the company, what your role is. That's very exciting for them to kind of hear from people who are actually in the industry. So that's an important one. And the other thing I would say about info sessions is if there's any calls to action there, like check out our website, follow us on social media, reach out to us on LinkedIn. We love to connect with, HR loves to connect with new grads on LinkedIn. Please send me a message. If there's anything like that you want people to follow up on, that's important to include in your info session as well. And for the one-on-one chats, because there's the benefit of the virtual fair is that you have this nice, quiet, kind of intimate time to chat with an attendee one-on-one. So you can actually hear them, as opposed to in our in-person fairs where there's hundreds of people and it's really hard to have a meaningful conversation sometimes. So the nice thing is you can kind of ask them questions about what they're studying. Students are given quite a few prep resources. We have several career fair prep workshops, self-study workshops. We have one-on-one coaching sessions with students. There's handouts. There's a lot of resources students get on preparing for these events. And we do teach them how to prepare a bit of a personal pitch and what kinds of questions they might want to ask employers. So they should be sharing information with you to start, but if you have questions for them about what skills they're using in their program or what they've been learning, what projects they've worked on, that can be a really nice way to engage attendees. And helping people understand what you look for in candidates and your hiring process is often something that is a great topic for one-on-one chats as well. And then again, calls to action in the one-on-one chat. So I know frequently employers suggest people take a look at their career page. I find that attendees really appreciate any direction you might be able to give them on the types of roles. And, you know, in some cases, you may be talking to an attendee that their area of study may not be a great fit for your roles, and perhaps you aren't directing them to any particular opportunity. And that's okay too. But if you are talking to an attendee who has a particular area of focus in their studies that would be a match either for a current or future opportunity that they could keep an eye out for, they really appreciate that help navigating what your opportunities are, I find. And again, if you're open to connecting with people on LinkedIn or have other suggestions for how they can continue to connect with and engage with your organization, that's really helpful, because one of the really key things that we teach students is that career fairs are not transactional. They're not going to be offered a job at the career fair. It's about following up and continuing to build those relationships with employers and learn about what they do, and that you never know what your future employer, where they might be in a couple of years or so, and it's part of networking. So any of those calls to action for how they can connect are super helpful for attendees. And that's all the tips I have for right now. And if anyone has any questions, I'd love to hear from you. And if this is your first time attending a virtual or any kind of career fair, let me know, because I think that's something that we hear from employers quite frequently, is this their first virtual career fair.
It's my first one I'm hosting or organising, so this has been really helpful. The only question I had was in terms of the information session. What do I need to send beforehand? Because I've got everything for the one-to-one chats. Is it just the Microsoft link that I need to send across to yourself? And will you be sending that to whoever will be doing the information sessions? How does it all work?
Yes, thank you, Karen, for that. And I really appreciate it. I think it's probably like 8 or 9 p.m. where you are right now.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm really glad you won't have to stay up too late for the career fair, because that would be a really, really late night. So yes, I'm going to send out the schedule of information sessions today or Monday. There are a couple of last minute additions and cancellations that happen around this time. So it's a tricky time for getting those things finalized, but I will send out that schedule today or Monday and ask for you to provide 2 links for your information sessions. Now, I think, Trina, correct me if I'm wrong, but they technically could create one meeting link for both their information sessions. It could be the same link.
Correct, yes. Yeah.
Okay. So you can create 2 separate links if that works best for you on your end, or it can be one link that I just duplicate for both your information sessions. That will be both sent out to students in a handout to help them know what the schedule and how to join those sessions is, but it will also be in simplicity at your booth in the information sessions section. So there'll be a couple of places that registrants can find that information. Does that answer your question, Karen?
Yeah, no, perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No questions. It's the first time for me, but no questions at the moment.
Okay, that either means that we did a good job or a terrible job at explaining things.
No, good job. I'm just excited to see what's happening next week.
Awesome. Fantastic. Yeah, so we'll be sending out a couple more emails with some of the instructions that you've already heard today, just reiterating things. And again, I know this is so much information. I really appreciate that this is a very different way of doing things from in-person career fairs, and it's a lot of information. So if you get stuck at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're happy to walk you through and help with anything that comes up. And I really appreciate you joining on a Friday. Here in Vancouver, it's a gloomy, rainy day, but hopefully everyone has a restful weekend ahead of them.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. We'll send out the recording after this as well.
No worries.
Thank
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.